Okay, so before beginning, let's just address the elephant in the room at the moment. You see, I know I have been posting a bit late for the last 2 to 3 weeks, and not even a bit late, I have been like 2 to 3 days late. While my usual schedule and what I try to be is like Wednesday 9 a.m. But that is because I have been recently involved in a competition which I have just gotten away with, and now I believe I'll be a bit more regular. So please apologize me for that. But I promise from this week onwards we'll be back on track. With that, let's move on to the video. Hi everyone, I'm Sanchit Batra and welcome back to the Poetry Challenge, where I write a poem every week and then make a video about it in which I do an in-depth analysis and also tell what I as the poet mean in between the lines. But as mentioned in the beginning of the video, this challenge isn't weekly anymore, but it will be. I promise that. Okay, so just trust me. Okay, so yeah. Now moving on to the poem of this week. You see, this week what I tried to do is I usually try to come up with unique topics, but this week I thought that instead of coming up with a unique topic, let me go back in time when I used to be more of a novice writer, and let me pick one of those topics and then write about them again and then see just how my writing has changed. Let me go back and then take that topic and then write about it again to see how my thoughts about stuff has changed. So there was one major thing I noticed, but before expanding on that, let me recite the poem. The poem might feel like it ends abruptly, but honestly speaking, this time when I was writing, I wasn't blank at the beginning, but by the end of the poem, I was so, frankly speaking, frustrated that I just did not want to write anymore. And sometimes it happens, right? Even the writers sometimes do not want to write. Even the painters sometimes do not want to paint. But most of the time we want to. But when we don't want to, we should just leave it to what it is. And anyways, since this is a learning project, I'm allowed to be a bit flexible. And anyways, it's my challenge and I'll do what I want to do with it, right? Now, moving on to the poem. From the green brown woods to the neon light spans the colorful sierra of colors that fill our sight. From the yellows of the sun to the whites of the moon, humanity's gift of color is indeed a lovely boon. From being the emblem of love to the dangers of red, shows us the colors and how they can be so variedly spread. So, if you have been following my Facebook channel, where I don't seem to be posting very regularly recently, but where all of the like Log the Words initiative actually began, there on Facebook, I usually started posting my poems, and that is when I wrote this poem. I was once thinking about what should I write about, and then the most general topic, me being a very young kid at that time, the most general topic that came to my mind was colors. Of course, as a poet, I have to write about colors, right? So that was the first one that struck my mind even today, which means that yeah, my general thinking process hasn't changed much, except in terms of poetry and the specialized fields, right? Anyways, moving on to the poem. You see, this time I tried to write a better poem, and in terms of perspective, I think I did a good job. In terms of thoughts, in terms of the way I approached the topic, I think I did a good job. But in terms of shaping the poem, in terms of giving it a structure in a way that even the reader feels comfortable reading it, the reader doesn't feel as the poem abruptly ends or abruptly changes the subject, there I think we did lack a bit. But anyways, I am quite sure it was better than the previous one. To know what it was, well, then you'll have to visit my Facebook channel. Okay, so now for the analysis, the first paragraph goes from the green brown woods to the neon light spans the colorful sierra of colors that fill our sight. Now I'm not quite sure, but as far as I remember, in my previous colors poem that I wrote like 1 or 2 years ago or even more, I tended to like enumerate. I went through each color one by one, whichever I could think of, and I told about its quality, and then one line had the color, the other had its quality, and then I made them rhyme. That's I think what I write, although I am not quite sure. I don't quite remember. But anyways, That is, I believe, what the approach I would have taken even like 6 or 7 months earlier. But then what has changed? You see, here's the change of perspective that I personally noticed. So this time, even I am being a critic of younger me, if that makes sense. Anyways, so you see, here's the deal. Earlier, I tried to see things definitely. I tried to divide things up into what I could perceive them as and then write about them. While in the present scenario, that approach has changed. I am trying to learn how to embrace things in their entirety rather than cutting them down into understandable chunks that my brain can perceive clearly and ignoring all the beautiful detail that lies in between. I'm trying to embrace the entirety of the spectrum. I'm trying to embrace every little shade of color that comes in between the primary ones as well. And that is like one of the major changes that I'm seeing. Of course, the rhyme scheme has changed to ABCB, but then that doesn't matter. So yeah. So like this time, instead of enumerating every color, I'm giving examples of colors. But yeah, the main focus of the poem is on embracing the entire spectrum and the detail. So the first paragraph goes, from the green brown woods to the neon light spans the colorful sierra of colors that fill our sight. And you might feel the more logical Sanchit Batra creeping into the poem this time, because I initially thought, from the green woods, from the brown woods, what should I do? Because as a general poet, I should have just simply gone with one of them. But as being a more logical and a person who likes to go into depths of things, as long as they are not quite right, I had to include both, because like woods, green, brown makes sense, right? From the green brown woods to the neon light. And so here's one of the very interesting things I learned. So I have recently been involved in stuff such as stuff that was let's just say closely related to the visual arts, right? I was involved in one of the fields that comes under that field of visual arts. And I learned about color theory, which said that colors like neon, colors that are shades of that come under the category of neon, like neon purple, neon blue, etc., are understood to be more artificial, while stuff such as green, brown, and everything ranging on the Kelvin black body scale, etc., that's considered to be more natural. And so in these two lines, I'm conveying two things. One, the entire spectrum of colors that we have, ranging from green, brown to to neon colors as well, right? But the other thing is that colors span from the nature, the green brown woods, to the neon lights, which are talking more about urban life and how all the tubes, LED tubes and bulbs, etc., which usually tend to glow with a neon glint. That is what you are reflecting in this. So from the natural kingdom to the artificial world, these colors are spreading, spans the colorful sierra. Sierra is basically a range of mountains, which here is meant to say, here is meant to talk about the range, because you see, a range of mountains doesn't necessarily have evenly sized mountains. Some might be very small, but some might be very huge as well. So in this line, spans the colorful sierra, we are talking about how all the colors are not equal, and all the colors are not you get the point, right? We are talking about the variety of colors present and about how widely they extend. So spans the colorful sierra of colors that fill our sight. And now you see, one of the biggest aspect of colors is that they are something to be perceived by our sense of sight. Like, you can't hear colors, I believe, except if there's some crazy theory that comes out, which keeps happening. But anyways, colors are majorly associated with sight, so I had to talk about them as being an entity that is closely related to our sense of sight. Moving on to the next paragraph, from the yellows of the sun to the whites of the moon, humanity's gift of color is indeed a lovely boon. So the entire poem, I believe, as a whole, is structured around the format of from that to that, this is what we see, right? So even here we are saying that even when you zoom in on the natural world, from the yellows of the sun in the morning, which is associated with brightness and happiness, etc., to the whites of the moon. And now I could have said the blacks of the night, but I chose the whites of the moon. For one, it rhymes better, of course, but the major reason was that I did not want this poem to tread down the path of gloom. I wanted this poem to continue on a positive note as it has been since the first line. And so instead of talking about the blacks of night, where black is often associated with darkness and ignorance in terms of like Edgar Allan Poe poems, if you have read them. So I rather associate it with whites of the moon, right? And moving on to the next paragraph, humanity's gift of color is indeed a lovely boon. Now, there was this let's just say dilemma going on in my mind when I was writing this poem, because when I usually write poems, I talk about their parent class as well. So when I'm, let's say, writing a poem about birds, I tend to talk about birds as how they are wonderful creatures. When I tend to talk about let's say nature, I tend to talk about them as gifts of gods. So I tend to use the parent class to characterize what I am talking about. But here, when I thought about what are colors, what category do colors fall in, and I could not find a subtle enough, a more general term for colors at all. So the words that popped in my mind was vibrance, the sense of sight, which I talked about in the previous paragraph, and ultimately colors as being something that creatures with a sense of sight can see. So that is what I'm saying. Humanity's gift of color is indeed a lovely boon. The mere fact that we have the ability to perceive color, which oftentimes creatures and even people do not have, we should be grateful for that lovely boon that we have, that we can perceive colors on the whole. And then from the to the whites of the moon, humanity's gift of color is indeed a lovely boon, because that helps us see the variety around us. From being the emblem of love to the dangers of red, shows us the colors and how they can be so variedly spread. And I ended the poem here, which I don't think should have happened, but it just is, and you have to go with the poem as it has turned out in its first draft. You can refine it, but I just thought to leave it there because it's my poem, of course. Anyways, but here we are talking about how a single color can span a whole range of emotions, can inflict a whole range of emotions on a certain person. While red is often associated with dangers, it's also the emblem of love. Red is also associated with affection, right? And that is what I wanted to say here. When, like, colors do not definitely mean a certain emotion. They do not definitely direct the viewer to a certain viewing area or any entity. No, colors rather depend on the context as well. So we are saying that it shows us how the colors and how they can be so variedly spread. Like, give an example of red itself. It can give the feeling of danger and the feeling of love as well. Now, as an example, you see blue. Blue is often associated with professionalism, but since blue is the color of the sky, it is associated with openness and hence being frank as well. And those are two absolutely contrasting qualities. It also depends on the context. That's what I, as the poet, am trying to deliver through this paragraph. And, like, yeah, that's all I can say about this poem. That was what this poem was meant to be. Just a candid impression of my thoughts on a topic that I had previously written about, and to see just how much I have improved over the years. For a comparison, go to my Facebook page, read that poem, and try to tell me in the comment section yourself as to what are the major changes you are seeing, right? So that was the poem for this week. If you liked it, do press the like button below. If you want to be updated every time a new video comes out, subscribe to this channel. And if you want to write a poem yourself and share it with me, post it on any social media platform, but tag me using the hashtag given in the description. And if you're liking these videos, do support me, as I said, as I have mentioned how earlier as well. So that was me for this week. This is Sanchit Batra signing out for now. See you next week, promisingly on the right time and on the right day. Bye.